it's Paul from paulsailor.com. Today was a pretty important day in history, I believe. Basically, the Philippines and the new president, Duterte, chose China as a partner over the United States. There's been a lot of news recently where people have said, Duterte's been saying things about Obama, saying things about the EU, saying things about various things about colonial history and this and that. And there was a, I think the general feeling until today was that Duterte is a crazy guy. He's making a lot of mistakes. He's going to regret it. He's going to make some big mistake, and now it's going to come home to roost was the kind of feeling. And or the other kind of thought everybody had was he'll come to his senses, right? I never believed that, and I was really watching this because I know the Philippines, right? I've been in Asia since '89, and I was in the Philippines in 1989, and I've watched the country develop, and I just didn't feel something wasn't right about this analysis. A lot of this Western analysis, I just didn't believe it. So I'm going to tell you what I think happened and what I think the results of what's going to be happening in the future. So today, Duterte announced that he's going to send 250 of Philippines' top business people to China, and they're going to do partnerships with everything from China Rail to all the major state-owned enterprises, and the Filipinos and Filipino companies. And actually his trip, if you can believe this, is actually oversubscribed by 100 business people. So 350 of Philippines' top business people is like putting their boat in with China, and so is the government. What we're seeing here is one of the most epic failures of all time that I know of public policy. A couple years ago, Obama made a promise that he was going to make a pivot to Asia, and I never believed it because he just didn't. He doesn't control the country. It's not like a dictatorship, right? Things have to be voted on. There's Congress. It takes time to get things done, right? You can't just make a pivot because you want to make a pivot. And what happened was his pivot was only in words, and everybody in Asia knew it because nothing changed. It was exactly the same. Everything, they woke up every day, they look around, the U.S. is over there, nothing's changed, right? What did they want to see? What would change be? The Philippines, if you haven't been there, it's a beautiful country, lovely country, one of my favorite places in the whole world. And they have one major problem, is that there's a few problems. One is the drugs. There's a serious drug problem, and what that drug problem causes that no one talks about is crime. So if you go to the Philippines, you're going to be totally shocked because I'm serious. Like any kind of convenience store or like anybody selling anything in the Philippines has a guy out front with a shotgun, and it's really jarring when you first get to the Philippines because it's like everybody's got guns, and they have guns for a reason, right? So even if you take a taxi, I was taking a taxi, I was coming by a public bus, and I looked over at the bus and there was bullet holes all along the window. And I asked the taxi driver, he said, yeah, somebody did a drive-by on that bus. And it was a really common thing. Crime is insane in the Philippines. And it's not crime like take your wallet crime. It's more like shoot you in the face crime. And that's one of the reasons why, it's one of the big things that's held Philippines back for so many years, is they just have so much violent crime, and it's really violent. I mean, it's like you don't want your wife to be walking around because you just don't know what's going to happen. And even like I forgot his name, but I sorry if I didn't fact check this part, but I was there when there was a top American diplomat shot in the face, and all that happened was he was trying to get into his development. He was waiting in line in his car, and there was a guy in front of him who was arguing. So he got out and started giving the guy a piece of his mind, pulls out a gun, shoots him in the face in one of the nicest districts in Bangkok. So the Philippines has a lot of pain, and they're going through a lot of pain for a long time as a society. And one of the biggest revenue for the sources of revenue for the Philippine government is overseas workers, right? So I think it's about 12-15% of GNP is just imported salaries and compensation from Philippine workers overseas. And I think everybody, Obama included, and everybody that I know, was just ignoring this. They're just like, oh, the Philippines is fine, we'll just let them go. If they, maybe we'll do some kind of deal with them here and there. I think the Philippines wanted real help, and they're kind of in a good position to get the help, because as Asia has risen, there's a few countries that have real potential that have not risen yet, and one of them is the Philippines, and another one is Indonesia. But these countries are just primed to go. They're primed to really explode economically, like Korea did, like Japan did, like China did. They're the tigers who never, there's no claws, right? So the Philippines, it's one thing if I don't know how to put this, but let's say you have no talent, right? And you never become a famous singer. It's not that surprising. It's not that painful because you'd never had any talent, right? But let's say you're like a top, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you saw the movie, what was that movie called? Sugar Man, where the guy who's like a top talent and he never makes it until someone finally gets his album from South Africa, long story, and he becomes famous. But why that story is so sad is because he had so much talent. He was dripping with talent. He was right there near where he could be famous, where everybody would know him, and like the Rolling Stones or like Bob Dylan, and it never happened until now that he's decades later. So when you have real talent and you're in real pain, those two things they just hit you in the gut. And the Philippines has been in pain, you guys. This is why this happened, okay? The Philippines has been in pain, and China knew it. And what China offered, and you're going to hear more about this in the near future, but what they offered was real stuff, okay? Not democracy, not words, okay? Not pivots, right? They offered real things, and what the Philippines needs is real things. They need development. They need buildings that don't fall down when it rains. They need, when a typhoon comes through, right? They need like stuff like that. Like, have you ever been in the Philippines? It's like shanty towns all over the place. I mean, when I was in the Philippines, I've been there a lot, actually, many, many times. You end up in shanty towns. You walk through shanty towns. You take taxis through shanty towns, and you see guys with guns in their jeans. When I went to see a movie one time, there was a box and it said, "Put your gun in the box while you're watching the movie." And I looked I was laughing, but I looked in the box and it was full of guns. I mean, I was like amazed. I went inside. I thought, wow, all those guys had those guns. They would leave the gun and they would come back and get it on the way out and put it in there because it was so dangerous. One of my friends was robbed when I was there. Fingers broken. They took his ring. It's just been so much stuff for so long. I think people just kind of ignore the Philippines. But the Philippines is a gem. It's a gem of a country, and it's got a gem of people. If you know Filipinos, that country is so giving and so warm. It just touches your heart. If you really travel in the Philippines, you're going to be blown away. And I'm not kidding. This is not some tourism video. I mean, you will be blown away, right? There's good people, there's bad people in the world. Filipinos are very nice, and they're very welcoming. I have always loved the Philippines, and the people. It's because of the people. I mean, there's a lot of beautiful islands too, and like there's a lot of naturally nice things, but the people are what make it nice, right? So you had these nice people in a lot of pain for a long time, and you had a lot of people talking about helping them, but there was no real help came. China, and I can't say that China is perfect because that's definitely not the case, but China was in a position to help. Okay, basically, think about this. China rose from a very poor country to a very wealthy country as it is now. Some of the most expensive land in the world is in Beijing and Shanghai now, right? How did they do that, right? There was a lot of things they did, but one of the things they did was they learned how to make houses, buildings, roads, highways, internet, like cables, electric cables, power stations, hydroelectric plants, nuclear plants. They learned how to really produce infrastructure quickly and efficiently. And I know that everyone's going to say, when they watch this video, they're going to say, oh, what about that bridge that fell down? Or what about that one highway that fell down? You guys are not listening, okay? You got to listen. You got to have a brain, okay, to understand geopolitics, okay? You got to get past one example that you don't even really understand, okay? Look, China made a lot of infrastructure, and a lot of that infrastructure is really good, okay? If you travel China, you're gonna be, everybody that goes there and travels is like, whoa, like we need Chinese companies to come build our country, right? Because it's crumbling, right? And maybe it's because it's so fresh in Chinese people's minds, you know, they recently, you know, built their country from what it was when I was there in '89, which is bicycles and, you know, like there wasn't much, you know, to a very, very wealthy nation with like tip-top infrastructure. Everything's clean, everything's like tight, everything's new, everything's well made, everything's well designed. You know, like all the airports and everything. Beijing Airport is going to be soon be the biggest in the world. Basically, if you search Chinese world records for infrastructure, you're going to see, like, I don't know if that's the exact term, but actually on my Facebook and LinkedIn, I posted that this month there was 4 world records for like the longest sea bridge connecting Macau to Hong Kong, the longest, the highest bridge, 18,000. It was like so many things, right? 4 world records in 1 month. They're building tunnels everywhere. They're building trains everywhere. And I think, I just want to say this, is if you're not a China expert, don't let a couple of dumb articles, confuse you, okay? Chinese infrastructure is well made, okay? It's well made and it's good, okay? It's awesome, right? Like when you want to get from Shanghai to Suzhou, which is a cool town outside Shanghai, definitely visit there. Really great tourist town. And cute, is really super cute too. Used to take, I used to have to go, like it was like 2.5 hours, and real painful hours too. Like a lot of dirt roads and going around things and around signs and, you know, waiting for this and waiting for that, mud and potholes and everything. Now it's like 25 minutes on the fast train, and it's $5. It's $5, 40 renminbi for a ticket from Shanghai to Suzhou, and it's only a few minutes, and it leaves every 15 minutes. So these things, they win people's hearts, right? They win people's hearts, you guys. You got to understand that infrastructure, when you don't have infrastructure, how much it means to you, right? The U.S. only really took off economically after the 60s when they built the highway system, the interstate system, the highway, and then after that, the place exploded, right? The internet, the growth was amazing because you could truck things places. You could produce something and it wouldn't get rotten before it gets to the next place, right? You could take a vacation. You could see more of the country. Your time's not wasted, right? You know, because you're not just waiting to do some dumb thing that shouldn't take long, but it takes forever, right? Infrastructure is really important. In a country like the Philippines, where you have, you know, I don't know how many islands, it's thousands of islands, and they even have thousands of languages because they're not connected, right? I guarantee you this, it's going to come out in the next whatever time. What China's plan is going to be is massive infrastructure projects, connecting the islands by bridges, connecting the islands by tunnels, taking trains so that you can actually go from one place to the other quickly. In the Philippines right now, when you want to go over 4 islands, you gotta take a bus, you gotta take a small, like a bamboo boat, really, like a bamboo boat from one island to the next. And then sometimes a bigger boat, if depending on the island, how big they are. But you know, when you're actually going from A to B, you'll see what it's like. It's like unbelievable. I mean, it's cute. Okay, it's cute, right? You're standing on the side of this bamboo boat, you know, and like it's good for a picture for Instagram. But Filipinos live there, right? They're not taking a picture for Instagram, and that's why everybody wants to leave the Philippines. Everybody wants to leave the Philippines. That's why there's 15% or 12%. Of the GNP is income from overseas, right? Filipinos don't want to leave, right? They want to stay in the Philippines if they could, if it was good, if they could make money, if it made sense, right? If it wasn't crime-ridden hellhole, right? Which it is now. So Duterte, what he and I believe correctly assume or surmised is that if, you know, when you fix a country up, okay, when you connect things, when you make it easy to move, when you clean things up, you know the broken window theory? If you have a broken window in a building, people break the other window because they don't respect the place, right? If you throw some garbage on the ground, quickly there'll be more garbage on the ground because everybody's like, well, it's this kind of place to throw garbage, right? So that's why it's so important to clean things up, fix that window if you own property, right? You don't want to have a broken window because it gives people the feeling they can break in, you know, it's not safe around there. gives a lot of assumptions, and it also causes a lot of actions to happen, right? That's what happened in the Philippines. You clean the place up, you give the people a hope. Hope. Why is there a big drug problem? Okay? The drug problem leads to the gun problem, right? Which leads to the violence problem. Because they're stealing money to go buy drugs, and then do drugs, and then doing crazy things, right? And they're having no hope, right? How do you fix the whole thing? You fix it by fixing the country, right? And everybody has known it, that the Filipino politicians have known it for years, but they didn't know who was going to do it, how it was going to do it. I believe, okay, that the Philippines gave the U.S. a very good chance to fix these problems. You know, they're like, hey guys, like our place is, you know, not quite there yet, and they're like, oh yeah, well good luck on that. You know, you really should, really stick together and get that thing done. You know, what they needed was they needed Bechtel level, floor level engineering companies who could come in and do studies and create infrastructure that makes sense, that's logical, that's efficient, right? That's based in fact, right? Not just some bridge, right? It's like a whole system of planned out connections, internet, electricity. Right now there's brownouts in the Philippines. The reason why I'm living in Bangkok right now is because I thought about the Philippines. One was the violent crime, right? The second thing was the lack of internet in a lot of the Philippines. The internet's quite slow in most places because they're all small islands and the connections are not good. China is going to fix all that, and China is in a perfect position to do it. It's absolutely perfect because right now, because they built the whole country, I was starting to say earlier, they built all these projects, and now the countries are idle, the companies are idle. So the Chinese government, one of their major projects right now is to find projects that these Chinese companies can export their infrastructure and export their expertise in creating skyscrapers and roads and trains and electric power plants and cables and like all the engineering that goes into that stuff. I just want you to wake up, okay? Don't just talk about things falling apart in China. And China's like, if you don't get the basics of what's happening in Asia, it's really not good. You have to understand what's going on. I've been here since '89, okay? I have a good idea of how things work. Right now, China's got a lot of excess capacity for infrastructure. The Philippines has a great need to improve their infrastructure so that they can be an efficient country, right? The part of the reason why the factories are not moving from China, because now the wages are high in China, so a lot of factories are moving to other countries. They're usually moving to Vietnam. Why is that? Because there's better infrastructure around to create a factory and a port and export the product than there is in the Philippines. The Philippines is just still so low level. You know, they have nice airports. Actually, the U.S. built those. I have a friend of a friend who, his father built the Cebu airport, and that was with the U.S. government, U.S. military. And I heard great things about it. He's still grateful today. He would tell me that story today. Why? Infrastructure. That's what they want, right? And China wants to export their infrastructure expertise. So stop thinking crazy things. Start looking at reality. Why did this whole thing happen? This happened because people didn't understand the stage of development that Asia is in right now. They're not quite in the same stage of development that your country's in, right? They're in a different mindset. So ask questions when you see things. Think about it. Talk to people. You know, don't assume. Don't assume that people agree with you or that people are thinking what you're thinking. Even if they say they do, dig a little deeper. You know, because sometimes people are embarrassed, right? Like when you have family money problems, you don't want to talk about it, right? You know, it's not a big conversation around dinner table, right? You have to really softly, carefully draw it out of people to find out what's really going on in Asia and to get to the people's hearts, because that's where it happens. I think the U.S. has a lot to give Asia still today. I hope that this situation in the Philippines is going to wake a lot of people up, where they're going to say, wait a second, our strategy for Asia is not working, okay? The U.S. is losing Asia, okay? It's like a domino effect right now, okay? That's why I'm making this video, is the U.S. lost the Philippines, okay? It's gone. I'm telling you right now, it's gone. And it's in for a long time. And also what's going to happen next is you're going to see a lot more other countries who are watching the Philippines and are just like blown away, that this could even happen, that the Philippines, one of the greatest friends of the United States, could fall. These other countries that are not so good friends of the United States, like Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand. Thailand is already going towards China. Already. Okay, I'm here right now, telling you right now, this place is going to China. Okay, and if the U.S. doesn't watch it, if they don't watch it and get their act together, what's going to happen? I predict, and I hate to say this, but this is what I think. I think Japan will eventually fall also under China's umbrella. And I think there's good and bad. I mean, I'm in a sense, I'm kind of, what do you call it? I'm agnostic. I mean, I want to see Asia succeed, right? I want to see better things happen. So if China's going to do it, and they're going to make better things happen, then I'm pro-China, right? If the U.S. is going to do it, then I'm pro-U.S., right? I want to see good things happen. I want to see better life in Asia. I want to see greater prosperity. I want to see like so many things, like the culture staying, not being destroyed, right? I want to see, high-tech technologies like electric cars and reducing pollution and all these things. I want to see so many good changes, and there has been a lot of good changes in Asia since I've been here. And I think right now we're in a really tumultuous time right now. Countries are making these big moves. The Philippines, nobody predicted they were going to fall to China. Nobody. Okay, you didn't predict it. I didn't predict it. Well, I wasn't saying it wasn't going to happen, that's for sure, but I'm not going to say. But people didn't predict it. It's happening. It's changing. The world's changing around you. And don't worry about it. That's my last message. It's all good. It's interesting. We live in interesting times. And I think all this stuff is to teach us lessons about what's important, how to listen to people, how to connect with people, and how to help people, and how to find, mutually beneficial things that can both help each other. Because, a lot of people would say, China's still communist, the Communist Party, that they have a lot of repression, and they certainly do, and they have a lot of problems, they certainly do. But that being said, they had a gem in their hands, and that was the ability to make Asian infrastructure very quickly and very efficiently. And they're going to use that. And trust me on this, and you can quote me on this, you can come back in 2 years and after this video, is that the infrastructure they make is going to be high quality. It's going to improve the livelihood of Filipinos' lives. It's going to be top notch. It's going to be top notch. Chinese infrastructure is going to change the Filipinos' lives because China knows that if they do a good job with the Philippines, the world's eyes are watching, right? So they want to do the best job they can so that everybody's like, hey, what's so bad about China? They're helping everybody, right? So I hope this is a lesson for you whenever in your life, whether it's just teaching you about what's happening in Asia, or if it's not to assume things and to listen. I don't think people listen to Asians enough. I really don't. I don't think people are out here listening, caring, knowing what's going on. The underlying feeling, right? I knew this. I've been feeling this like for weeks. I've been like tearing my hair out, trying to figure out what's going on. And when I finally saw this article today, I'm like, it happened. This is it. Philippines fell to China. They're like big middle finger to the U.S. And I guess one last thing, because I am still going on, is not to be too political about it. Okay, I think what people do is they start talking politics right away. Everything's about politics. It's not about politics. This one is about people's lives. Politics are going to follow. Okay, they're going to follow, and this is going to be really interesting. But the people's livelihood. A man wants to work, right? He wants to get paid. A woman wants to work, and she wants safety. She wants clean, good health care. She wants good hospitals. She doesn't want a crumbling hospital with a terrible road there and impossible to take, to cheaply take medicine that's been refrigerated to the hospital. These are the kind of things that infrastructure helps. When you have good infrastructure, you have good health care, you have good hospitals, and everything gets better for the average person, even if they're not rich. Right? It just gets better because they can move around, they can talk to people. The best thing that's happened has been the internet in the Philippines, and that was from the U.S. So definitely the U.S. has brought good things to the Philippines before. I hope that they can take the best of what they bring to the world, and bring it in a good way. Not in a kind of like, like I hope the U.S.'s attitude is not like, you chose China, you guys are making a big mistake. No, they chose China for a good reason. So listen, think, feel. Get relationships with people where they tell you stuff that they won't tell people, and you will be a guy who can read the tea leaves of Asia, of what's really going on, and it's a really super interesting thing. It's not my business, but it's something I just delight in, and I love to figure these things out. So any comments below if I'm wrong about something, I would love to hear that. I'm totally fine with being wrong. I'm trying to figure out things just like you, right? This is my best take tonight, and I hope this is valuable to you. So if it is, please share this video and on your Facebook, and any comments below are welcome, likes and shares. And if you have any questions, please put them in the box or send them to Paul at paulsalo.com. That's Salo, it's PaulSalo.com. All right, thanks for watching.